Harvard University is challenging the Trump administration's decision to bar the Ivy League school from enrolling foreign students.
The Justice Department struck a deal with Boeing over two 737 MAX crashes from over 5 years ago.
A major prisoner exchange between Russia and Ukraine began on Friday, each releasing 270 soldiers and 120 civilians. A federal judge has blocked the Trump administration from cutting off Harvard's enrollment of foreign students. In the lawsuit filed on Friday, Harvard said the government's action violates the First Amendment and will have an immediate and devastating effect on the school's over 7,000 visa holders. The temporary restraining order to block the Department of Homeland Security from carrying out the move was granted. The department accused Harvard of allowing what they called anti-American pro-terrorist agitators to assault Jewish students on campus, as well as coordinating with the Chinese Communist Party. China's foreign ministry said on Friday that educational cooperation with the U.S. is mutually beneficial and that the move would damage America's international credibility. If the government's action stands, Harvard said the university would be unable to offer admission to new international students for at least the next 2 academic years.
The U.S. Justice Department struck a deal with aerospace giant Boeing. The deal would allow the plane maker to avoid criminal prosecution in a fraud case sparked by two 737 MAX crashes from over 5 years ago. Under the tentative deal, Boeing would pay a monetary fine in return for the dismissal of the fraud case. However, some crash victims' families have expressed their grievances with the agreement. They believe it does not hold the company sufficiently accountable for its fatal mistakes. Some relatives of the victims have been pushing for a public trial, the prosecution of former company officials, and a more severe financial punishment for Boeing. The two fatal crashes that occurred less than 5 months apart in 2018 and 2019 killed 346 people.
A major prisoner exchange between Russia and Ukraine began on Friday, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky announced. He said 390 Ukrainians were released from Russian captivity, 270 soldiers and 120 civilians. The same amount of Russian soldiers and civilians were also released, according to Russia's Ministry of Defense. Ukraine and Russia agreed to swap 1,000 prisoners of war from each side during direct talks in Turkey last week. The head of Ukraine's presidential office, Andriy Yermak, said among those returned are the soldiers who had been in Russian captivity since 2022. The exchange is expected to continue through the weekend. It was one of the few signs of progress to come out of talks between the two sides, which failed to bring a meaningful breakthrough in international diplomatic efforts to stop Russia's all-out war or bring on a ceasefire.
The EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas expressed strong support for North Macedonia's EU integration on Friday. On her final stop of her 3-day Western Balkans tour, Brussels has revived EU membership talks with Southeast Europe countries after Russia's invasion of Ukraine, fearing Moscow could exploit regional instability.
We clearly see these different, big powers shifting and tectonic shifts. So it is in our interest, if we look at the map, because Western Balkans are in Europe, that we are all fully integrated, because European Union is a peace project.
Kallas praised North Macedonia's progress and urged its continued reforms amid geopolitical tensions. On Thursday, Kallas said the EU has begun to lift sanctions on Kosovo. North Macedonia is a EU candidate country. However, Kosovo is still only a potential candidate.